launch Revit, go to File, New, Family, and choose Metric Generic Model. And the first thing I want to do is save the family, so I press Ctrl S on my keyboard. Name the family. Go to Options and specify that I only want one number of maximum backups. The next thing I want to do is go to Family Category and Parameters and choose Mechanical Equipment Family Category. Hit the OK button. Let's say I needed to create 6 Plenum box types, and here they are. So these are length, width, and depth. The number of spigots varies, and the diameter of the spigots varies too. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is create the box and then the spigots. To manipulate this Plenum box sizes, I need to create reference planes and length parameters. If I press RP on my keyboard for reference planes, and I need to make sure that I draw it from right to left, otherwise the extrusion is going to go inside the Plenum box, which is wrong. Let me demonstrate this for you. So I'm going to call this reference plane front and set the work plane to a reference plane front. Hit the OK button, and if I go to 3D view, I'm gonna show it, and let's say if I draw extrusion just as an example, if I go back to the ref plane, here you can see that my extrusion is pointing to the direction I need, which is that way. But let's say if I delete this one, press RP again, and if I draw it from left to right, go to 3D view, set the work plane to a reference plane front, show it, and if I draw the extrusion this time, then you can see that it's pointing to the wrong direction. So to fix this, the only thing you want to do is drag the reference plane's endpoints to the opposite directions, just like so. I'm gonna delete it for now. Now I'm gonna draw 3 more reference planes and call them back, left and right. So I'm gonna press RP on my keyboard and draw left reference plane, right and back, and I'm gonna call them respectively. Once that's done, I'm gonna create 2 length parameters, and I'm gonna call them length and width, both type not instance. Type not instance. Let's place the dimensions and associate them with relevant parameters. So if I press DI on my keyboard, so this is going to be length parameter, and this one is going to be width parameter, just like so. So everything is ready for me to create the Plenum box. So if I go to Create tab, Extrusion, and choose Rectangle, draw a shape, and make sure it's locked. Hit the Finish Edit Mode button. Press Escape a couple of times. I'm gonna go to the front elevation and create one more parameter and call it depth. So I'm gonna place the dimension first. I'm gonna press DI on my keyboard. I'm gonna select the dimension and hit the Create Parameter button. As I said, I'm gonna call it depth, and it's gonna be type parameter. And I'm gonna go back to the ref level view. Let's create the 6 types I showed previously. For the simplicity purpose, I'm gonna call them type 1, 2, 3, etc. Let's double check. So the width and depth are the same for all types. The only thing that varies is the length. So 650, 700, 800, 900, 1000, 1100. 650, 700, 800, 900, 1000, 1100. That's a mistake. All good. Let's test it. If I go to 3D view, press the Family Types button and test my types. Seems good to me. It's time to create spigots. So I'm gonna create side spigots first. So if I go to the right elevation, set the work plane to right, and create circle extrusion. I'm gonna draw this line just to find the center. Make it 200 in diameter. Delete this line. Let's make it 50 mil extrusion and finally hit the Finish Edit Mode button. Go to 3D view. Looks good. I'm gonna go to the ref level view. Select the right hand side spigot. Choose Mirror Pick Axis option. Select the sensor reference plane. Now we've got the left hand side spigot. So I'm gonna align this extrusion to this reference plane, to the left hand side reference plane. And as well as that, I'm gonna put a constraint of 50 mil. So if I go back to the 3D view just to test it, seems good to me. Since the spigot diameter varies, we need to create one more parameter and call it spigot diameter. I'm gonna select the extrusion, press the Edit Extrusion button, and place the diameter dimension. I'm gonna select the dimension and hit the Create Parameter button. I'm gonna call it spigot depth diameter. I'm gonna finish the extrusion and do the exact same procedure with the left hand side spigot. Let's set the spigot diameters for each type. So if I go to Family Types, I'm gonna double check. So it's 200, 200, 250, 250, 200, 250, 200, 200, 200, 250, 250, 200 and 250. Now let's create the front spigots. For that I need to create two visibility parameters and call them 2 front spigots and 3 front spigots. So it's going to be yes, no visibility parameter. And 3 front spigots parameter. Then I'm gonna associate these newly created parameters with the types. So if I look at the types, I need two spigots for 4 types and 3 spigots for the last 2 types. I'm gonna go to the front elevation, set the work plane to front, leave it as this, and create 2 circular extrusions. I'm gonna draw this line just to find the center. I'm gonna select this one and mirror it again around the center reference plane. Delete this line, place the diameter dimension, select both dimensions and associate them with spigot diameter. I'm going to reduce the scale to 1:5. As well as that, I need to make sure that these spigots are placed equidistantly when the length changes. So I'm going to select both of these sketches and tick this checkbox against sensor mark visible. Press DI on my keyboard. Make it equal. Make it equal. Press escape a couple of times. And finally hit the Finish Edit Mode button. Go to 3D view. As well as that, I need to associate these extrusions with the two front spigots visibility parameter. Let's test it. Looks good to me. Next, I want to create 3 front spigots and associate them with relevant parameters. I'm gonna go to the front elevation, select current extrusions and press HH on my keyboard to temporarily hide them. So let's create new extrusions. I'm going to select this one, mirror it, and I'm going to copy this one. Just like so. I'm going to dimension them up, place diameter dimension, and associate it with a relevant parameter, in this case spigot parameter. As well as that, I need to make sure that the spigots are placed equidistantly when the length changes. So for that, I need to create another parameter, and I'm going to call it outer spigot. For now, I'm going to go to the family types and create the parameter. I'm going to call it outer spigot. It's going to be length parameter, that's right. I'm going to select these 2 dimensions and associate it with spigot diameter. And now I'm gonna use a formula. Let's check. 87.5, 87.5, 87.5. correct. I'm gonna finish edit mode and unhide the hidden objects. I'm gonna go to the 3D view. I'm gonna hide these two spigots again and just test the last two types. Looks good to me. I'm gonna associate these extrusions with the 3 front spigots visibility parameter. And finally, let's place the duct connectors. So if I go to the Create tab, choose duct connector and place it. Select all of them. Make sure it's round. Let's associate the connector's diameter with the spigot diameter. It's going to be out, supply, yep, that's right. Just like so. It's time to test it. And I forgot to indicate which visibility parameter needs to be shown for each type. So again, let's double check. For the first 2 types, for the first 4 types, we need 2 spigots, 2 front spigots, 2 spigots at front, and for the last 2 types, we need 3 spigots at front. So let's make sure it matches. So we need 2 spigots. We need 2 spigots. 2 spigots. 2. Okay. So let's create a new project. And load this family into new project. Let's go to 3D view. And it's time to test it. Seems good to me.